Magdalene Gaston, and we are here at the Orlando Home Show with WeBeam TV, and we are streaming live right now. And I have a guest with me, and this is Blake Deal from Florida Homestead Check. Welcome. Thanks for coming, Blake.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, Blake, we've been sitting here chatting for the last several minutes because he has the most interesting, I think, one of the most interesting things that can save people money. You know, the home shows are all about, fixing your home or repairing your home or things for the home. Talk about something for the home, Blake. So tell us what Florida Homestead Check is all about, because this is really amazing.
Thank you. I've been a real estate lawyer for 23 years, and I've done a little over 10,000 closings. And I started noticing and doing closings that quite often people had not properly handled their property tax filings. There's a thing called Homestead in Florida, and everybody thinks, oh, I filed for Homestead. You file for by March 1st. That's it. There's way more to it than that. And Florida has probably the most generous property tax laws in the nation, but they're also the most complicated. And I would say 5% of people understand it. Realtors don't understand it. Title agents don't understand it.
Mortgage people don't understand it. What I tell people is make sure you file for your homestead, just like what you just said. And just touching real light, tell them what a homestead is, because people don't know.
In Florida, if you buy a house and that's where you live, it's your principal residence. That's your homestead.
And they can get a tax break.
Yeah, there's all kinds of tax breaks. There's basically, it's called the Save Our Homes Act. It holds down the amount that your assessed value that you pay taxes on can go up each year to 3% or CPI, whichever is less.
And we all, most of the realtors and mortgage people, we only tell people about the two of them, $25,000 each, the homestead and the school.
Well, that's
one.
another way that it saves you money. They're called exemptions, and everybody knows about the $50,000 standard exemption. The problem is there's about 29 other ones that everybody doesn't know about.
How interesting is this?
And the tough part about it is when you go to file, you may not be eligible for an exemption then, but you may become eligible for an exemption later. And how the heck are you going to know when you became eligible for it? That can happen because your income changes, because your age changes, your disability status changes, your military status changes. There's a whole list of things. And there's no way, it's like going on a treasure hunt and not even knowing which county the treasure's buried in.
Wow. See? Now, so let's touch lightly on some of the ones that you were telling me that are just amazing that people can. Let's start first with, there's a lot of elderly people in the state of Florida. Everybody comes down here and retires. So let's talk about those first. Well,
in Florida, if you're over 65 years old and your income drops below, and it changes every year, but this year it's $30,174 in the AGI block on your tax return, this magical thing happens. You become eligible for another $50,000 exemption, which will save you about $1,000 a year on your property tax bill.
So if your property taxes right now that you're paying are $2,000 a year,
it'll go down to $1,000 a year.
Boom! You just cut your taxes in half on your property taxes. That's amazing, and people don't even know about that one. See, all we talk about, we in the mortgage business, real estate business, is the 2 tax exemptions, and that's it. We don't know these exist, and neither do people.
Well, there's an 800-pound gorilla named Portability, and everybody knows just a little bit about that, but 9 out of 10 people don't even file for it. It basically means that you can take the savings that you've accrued between your market or just value, some people call it, and your assessed value, which is held down by that 3% cap. You can take up to $500,000 of that and move it to your next home in Florida, and it's going to save you 2% of whatever that amount is off of the tax bill on your next home. So we find people all the time that had $500,000 in portability there that they didn't even file for, that when we catch it, they file one form, they get it, and their property tax bill on their next home will be $10,000 a year lower than it would have been if they hadn't spent that $100 for a homestead check.
Right. See, so layman's terms that we're just talking about. So my house is, the county has it assessed at $250,000. I sell it for $350,000, but before I sell it, I need to have that adjusted. So, and that's the portability that I can
It is not intuitively obvious. Most people get their
And
little.
they're not going to tell you about
No,
this.
they're not.
The county is not going to tell you about this.
No, they want. Most people get the biggest mistake most people make is they get their trim notice every August
Right.
that tells you what your market value is with the property appraiser, and they see that it's way lower than they know their home is worth. And they think that they're getting away with something. Everybody wants to think they're getting away with something, but you're not. If you sell your home before you fix that, then your property tax bill on your next home in Florida will be whatever that error was multiplied times 2%. So if you're off by $100,000, your property tax bill on your next home will be $2,000 a year higher, and it can be as high as $10,000 a year. It's very counterintuitive, and no one understands it.
And it's very, like you said, very complicated and hard to understand. So, so Blake, our brilliant real estate attorney, has come up with a program that you designed and you created, and it is called Florida Homestead Check.
Yep, and our main
That's
product
the
is
name.
called a Homestead Check. It's an incredible artificial intelligence software-driven product that is able to. We've built a gigantic database. We basically have all the information on every property in Florida going back to 2007. It's the equivalent of over 200,000 sets of the Encyclopedia Britannica
Wow.
that's in our database, and it's instantly searchable. So a Homestead Check goes in, it takes some information you give us about yourself and your property, and then it searches all those databases and it analyzes whether or not you made a mistake, whether or not there's anything to be gained, and it essentially instantaneously gives you back a report that's either green, that means everything's okay, it's yellow, which means you have issues and will tell you how much a year is involved, or red. The difference in yellow and red is if it's yellow, you have a little time to fix it. If it's red, you better jump on it because you're going to permanently lose the savings if you don't fix them by a certain date, usually because someone's in the process of selling their property.
Now, as long as it gets done prior to the actual sale taking place and a closing, and you're turning over keys to someone else, does it make a difference if the house is listed? Is it like too late? Is there like a window? You only have so much time. Like Homestead, you have to apply for the Homestead before March 1st. You have to own the property by December 31st. This is what I tell people.
Yeah.
You have to own the property by December 31st, and you have to apply for Homestead before March 1st.
You're good. You got some of it down there.
Is there a window on some of these other exemptions?
Well, ideally,
Okay.
you would fix these problems the year before you're going to sell your home.
Okay.
And the reason is if you get unlucky and you get a contract on your home and you end up in a certain time of the year, basically past around September 10th, September 15th, then you're out of luck. You will not be able to fix it if you're selling your home that calendar year. So we highly advise people to just make sure you don't get it that out of whack so that doesn't happen to you. We have a product called Homestead Monitoring, which basically you do your first Homestead Check is $100, and then you sign up for Homestead Monitoring, and every year after that, it's only $75, and you'll get a link, an email link, that will prompt you to update your information. If your income's changed, your age, we of course keep track of that. And we will identify if you've become eligible for additional exemptions or if your market value has been monkeyed with to where you need to know about it. So there's always someone sitting there watching, making sure that you're taken care of. So for $75 a year, you can sleep at night and know that you're not paying 1 penny too much in property tax. If you're not doing something like that, then it's up to you every year to check on all this.
Right.
And no one does.
And no one does because
No.
no one knows that there's a possibility out there. Let me ask you, one of the things that you said is if your income is below 30,000. So a lot of times people will be working, and then they retire. So their income drops down to, I'm just getting Social Security now and I'm below. So that's like a perfect person who needs to check and see if they
I
can
can give
save
you a more
money.
dramatic example. Let's say you've lived in Florida 23 years and you're 64 years old and you filed for homestead a couple years when you moved here.
Sure.
And one day, the magic day comes, you turn 65. And then a little bit later, you've been in that home for 25 years. But you're still working, your income's $50,000, and then you retire and your income drops down below $30,174. No horn blows, no bells go off and whistles. You suddenly became completely exempt from paying property tax in Florida if your home has a market value of under $250,000. And you'd have never had any way of knowing that.
Did you hear that? Completely exempt, he said. Completely exempt.
There are hundreds of thousands of senior citizens in Florida who are taking their hard-earned money, hard-saved money, and paying property taxes when they're completely exempt from having to do so.
And again, the county is not going to tell you this because they're collecting your taxes.
Well, their attitude is the laws were put in place to help you,
right.
And it's your responsibility to know them, and it's not their job to make sure that you know all this stuff.
Now, I know we're running out of time, but another quick question on that same thing. So what if we have a husband and wife, and again, working or whatever it might be, and one of them passes away and the other one is left with income of less than $30,000. So does it make a difference why the income changed?
No. Once
somebody passes away and we went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household.
Once the adjusted gross income block on your tax return drops below the magic number, you become eligible for the various exemptions. And there's actually 3 different income levels for various exemptions. There's all kinds of different exemptions. There's exemptions for disabled people, for spouses of first responders who were killed in the line of duty. I mean, how would you ever know that? The list just goes on.
I know
and on
veterans who are, disabled veterans also are tax exempt.
And the disabled veterans one is huge, because if you find out that a disabled veteran failed to file for one of these exemptions, that's the one that you can actually go back and get a retroactive refund as far as 4 years back for any extra taxes paid.
No way! Yep. That is fantastic. Yep. That is absolutely fantastic. I have all these veterans that I've done VA loans for in the last, couple of years running through my head. I need to talk to them about this. I don't know if they're paying or not. Blake, you have been a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you.
Very exciting. I wish you the best of luck with this program.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to share it with my clients.
Well, if you want to run a homestead check, you just go to FloridaHomesteadCheck.com and click on Start a Homestead Check. It's easy.
There you go. You guys should do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice
Thank
to meet you.